to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. It's Design Biz Live today. That's right. You know what that means. If you're a loyal listener, you know that means that I've got Judith, Neary, and Cory Klassen with me. And you know that means that we're going to get into an in-depth discussion about the intricacies of running your interior design business. Today, we're going to talk about the personality traits that are important for you to master in order to be a successful interior designer. And take a listen to Judith's description of what is and isn't a successful interior designer. The other thing to look for in this conversation is Cory has a specific questionnaire that he sends out to his clients prior to their first consultation, and he has a specific 11-step, what I will do and what I won't do document that he attaches and goes over when they sign the contract with him. And if you've been coaching with me over these last couple of months, I'm pretty sure you're going to recognize that phrase. What will you do and what won't you do? Because it's all about being clear, setting agreements, and then both sides, you and your client, sticking to them for a smooth, complete, easy process, right? Okay, so if you are new to the show and you happen to like this episode, I want to tell you two things. Number one, Design Biz Live is always available as a video also on my YouTube channel, A Well-Designed Business. The other thing is that if you want more of these, you could head over to luannnigara.com, go to the podcast tab, and then go to collections. And I've recently had emails coming to me saying, how do I know all the episodes on Facebook, or how do I know all the episodes on marketing? Well, you're right. In iTunes or Stitcher or iHeart, wherever you're listening to the show, they're not organized that way. But on my website, luannnigara.com, I do have the podcast separated into collections. Okay, so it's easy, and you can listen to them right there from the website as well. All right, so before we start today's show, I just want to say thank you to our sponsor, Camp Chroma, and remind you that Camp Chroma is a sponsor of A Well-Designed Business podcast. And so are you wondering what Camp Chroma is? Well, did you ever think and wonder, could you measure color? You measure for window treatments, you measure for your furniture, you measure your layouts, but could you measure for color? Well, the truth is that quantifying color and how we perceive color is not as difficult as you might think it is, okay? You can learn all about this simple data-based approach to architectural color design at Camp Chroma. Camp Chroma is an online, on-demand resource for you to learn exactly this, to be an expert color strategist. Head over to campchroma.com now, and you can enroll and you can be on your way to specifying color with confidence. Okay, let's meet Judith and Cory and get into this discussion today. All righty, everybody, we are back. It's A Well-Designed Business, and it's Design Biz Live. I've got Judith Neary and Cory Klassen with me. If you are new to the show, Judith and Cory and I have done several episodes together. We always record them with video so that you can see the entire shenanigans, and I never edit these shows. They kind of go up just the way they are. But what we do is we take apart topics that are topics that you struggle with in every design firm at every level, from beginner to, seasoned, that are not necessarily in a straight line. I mean, there's a lot of these challenges that you guys face as interior designers that it's not like, my regular shows. It's like, okay, we're talking about this and let's pull this apart, and these are like, these nuances that you could just talk over and over. So we're doing that again today. And today, we're going to start out with the overarching theme of some of the personality traits that go into being a successful interior designer. And we're going to pull these apart a little bit. I'm sure it's going to be way, way more than one show. So we'll see, because, you know, Cory and Judith have identified multiple traits that they feel are important to running a successful firm. And the thing is that you'll learn that some of these are traits that you might possess, but even if you don't innately possess a trait, it means then that you have to learn it as a skill, right? So Judith and Cory, thank you so much for being back with me again today. I always love these shows. I have a lot of good times with you guys. So do you want to start off and tell us what we think some of these, overarching traits are that are important to have or develop as interior designers?
Cory?
And
do I want to crack this nugget, or do I want Judith to start cracking this nugget is the question.
All right, I'll jump in there since you chickened out.
That's it.
Well, Luann, first of all, thank you again for having us. And enjoy the diversity of your shows very much. And the dialogue from all the different designers is very, very fascinating. Mm-hmm. And even though a lot of the topics may seem repetitive, like fee structures, God forbid, okay, it is very helpful to see, to experience different designers and how they have found their path. Mm-hmm. And that's really important. And in these conversations that we have with you, and sometimes, in fairness, at the end of the day, after I've had a shot at tequila, I have this incredible, brilliant thought about a topic that we could bring to your show. And I texted Cory these topics, and he was apparently had not had his shot of tequila because he was a little grumpy.
Clearly not amused.
Yeah, he was not amused. But one of the things that came to my top of mind in thinking about personality traits of successful designers, like, first of all, a successful designer doesn't necessarily mean a $500,000 or a $2 million or a $10 million or a $15 million business. Okay, so first of all, when you define what a successful practice or a successful practicing design professional is, it's about you as an individual and what is a productive environment and a productive business for you, and then also for the clients. And so success to me doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, that $1 million+ business. It could be a smaller business, but is enough to sustain you in the environment where you live. And those personality traits that help you make successful, one of them that really came to top of my mind was adaptability. And adaptability doesn't necessarily mean, now I completely confused myself. I was being overly adapted to my conscious thought. But adaptability oftentimes means setting aside what you think should happen for the homeowner versus what they want to happen, because those are often two different realities, as we all know. So adaptability to me says that you're able to take your personality trait or your personality style or your personal, like, I like blue pillows, okay? You're able to set that aside and then live vicariously through the homeowner and help them experience, you can get to experience a unique lifestyle based on what they want to help them find that solution. So adaptability to me is really important as part of your successful business practices.
Okay, I love it. I think it's great. I mean, it's funny because in Window Works, I say it all the time. I just said it yesterday to a client. The reverse for me, I'm always aware that it's not about what I love. It's not about what I like. And so I was with a client yesterday and we were talking about our window treatment. And all of a sudden she said something to the effect of, I don't know, but that's not really a popular window treatment right now. I love them so much, but I probably shouldn't do them. And I just looked at her. I'm like, Architectural Digest isn't coming. I got news for you. If you love them, we can do them. You know what I mean? Like, she really wanted it, and for me, as long as it fulfills function and is the right solution, then that's where you have to be adaptable and be willing to say that this is really what's going to serve the client the most right now. So I like that. That's good.
It does take a while to get your ego out of the way, in fairness, because as in the beginning stages of your career, oftentimes you have opinions. Oh my God. Right. And so those opinions sometimes drive how you want the homeowner to make decisions. And that necessarily isn't a productive relationship, because in the end, the homeowner may not get what they want. Right. And so it does take a little bit of time to step out of yourself and not make it about you. And that is that adaptability. That is really an important personality trait to have.
And I could see how it would be more difficult for you guys, because, I'm doing all window treatment. The whole thing isn't a reflection of my ability and my talent, where you guys are really coming in and putting together a whole room. What were you going to say, Cory?
I think adaptability, as Judith identified, is understanding a little bit more about what your business is and being able to inject certain parts of pieces where they need to be kind of laid out. Right. Rather than having a whole set plan and everything going to a certain structure, you need to be well, that's a whole different item. You need to be able to identify where you can inject your policies, your procedures, your flair, your personality, and find a solution.
Well, Cory makes a good point about adaptability. So I was talking about adaptability in terms of a personality trait.
Right. But
at the same point, you need to make sure and have a business, I'm going to go back to it, the menu of your services, your zone of genius, okay? If you've made a commitment to, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm going to do, and this is the value that I bring to a homeowner and the value that I bring to a project, if I adapt that zone of genius or my menu of services to accommodate a client that doesn't fit that, that's not good. That's not the
kind of adaptability we're talking about.
No.
And I think if anybody who's listening to this or watching this right now hasn't gone to our first Design Biz Live and done the skills assessment checklists, it's time to get on that.
Yeah, and I'll put the link to it in the show notes for this episode too. You have this skills self-assessment checklist, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's very detailed, and it really does help you figure out not only what you're good at, but what you like to do and what you don't like to do.
Right.
So, so we're not talking about adapting your services or adapting your design firm to be a one-size-fits-all, or adapting your design firm away from your mission, your company mission, your core values for every new client that walks through the door. We're talking about adapting your ego and your design, having room in your design aesthetic for something that may or may not be your first choice, right?
And I think there's a lot to be said about adapting yourself, because, and Judith and I were talking about this earlier, and our business is really, we're 100% customized. Even if we're using something stock, it's still a customized solution, or applying a solution to a particular need or requirement. It's not repetitive. We're technical and creative. We're highly creative. Mm-hmm. So adaptability really helps you use those 4 traits a little bit more strongly.
Okay.
It's Canadian, by the way.
Yeah, it's Canadian. Okay. So I have a question for you guys. I did an interview recently with Kirsten Thomas from Studio Thomas. Really smart lady, by the way. And this is a nuance, I think, of what you're saying. So, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because if it's a brand new designer listening, it may feel like it's in contrast to what Kirsten has done. So I'm going to explain to you what she's done and you give me your opinion on it. So Kirsten was an interior designer for X amount of years. And last year, January 2018, she decided that she wanted to do a specific style of design, a specific elevated level of design. And what she did, among other things, is she has over 16 or 17,000 followers on Instagram, and she completely wiped out her Instagram account, all pictures, and started over again and only started showing portfolio pictures of the design that she wanted to do, the style. So I don't know what the style's called. I mean, let's just call it, I don't know, California Breezy. I have no idea what it's called. Okay. But the point is that it's very elevated. It's very stylish. It's gorgeous. But the thing is that when she did that in the last 4 or 5 months, her business has skyrocketed. Okay. And what she says is, this is the part that I'm questioning. What she says is, when someone on her team makes a suggestion for a particular element within a room, it's first evaluated as, is this part of the Studio Thomas look? Is this piece at home in an appropriate way in the Studio Thomas look? And what she said is, if it's not, it doesn't get presented as part of the project. And because what she said is, there's always another thing that will look as beautiful, be appropriate in the space that expresses the Studio Thomas aesthetic. So I feel like that does not contradict what you were saying, but I feel like if you're brand new in design, you might have heard that show and then heard this show. It says, be adapt, do something that your clients like, even if you don't like it. So there's a rub in there, right? There's a clarification and there's a nuance in there. Would you agree?
Agreed.
I do agree. And oh gosh, this is blowing my lid a little bit, but because it's something that we're trying to do on our side.
Oh, you're trying to do this model too for your firm, you're saying?
Just trying to start that dialogue and that conversation visually rather than posting anything that pops up. Mm-hmm. Being really clear what belongs in a story and how that needs to look. Mm-hmm. I don't really subscribe to all the follower, get followers. I don't think that's the right. I've always believed in depth and not width.
Right.
As far as social media goes. But you're talking about a specific style for a designer to narrow in on or pinpoint, and I think that is a skill that you can bring to the table. It is a attraction for a client, and if they don't fall in that category, that's not going to be a job for you.
Right.
So I think that's
so I'm really just like trying to clarify. So there could be a designer that is not with a goal of only delivering a particular look and brand and style in their interiors, in which case that definition for adaptability for that designer is broader. So if you walk in and somebody wants to do Tuscan one day and somebody wants to do beachy the other day, then be adaptable and bring their vision, their style, their dream to life. But I think what I'm trying to make sure that I believe that you believe as well is, if you have identified a particular style to yourself, then there's still a cornerstone of needing to be adaptable, but it can be adaptable within your style. So like Kirsten's team, it's like, there's another sofa. This is not the one, but there's another. So there's adaptability. But, and I was clarifying, because the broad definition is a little too broad, I think.
Well, I find it very interesting because what she's done is she has found her zone of genius.
Right.
Okay. That's her sweet spot.
Right. For
her business, for her clients. People come to her for that very, very specific look.
Right.
That's a very powerful success story all by itself. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who, known for the year, worked with for many years in the industry. And I would joke with her over and over again. I'm like, good Lord, you do beige really well. And that is her signature style. She's all over house for how she does beige. Today, the clients that come to her, they're like, you do beige. This is what I want. That's the look. I mean, that is her zone of genius. She's really good at it. Now, could she do weird like I do weird? Not as well as I do weird.
Right.
But that's her area of specialty. Now, she's learned adaptability within that color palette of beige and grayish that she works within. And so, you know, if I come across a situation where the homeowner really wants that kind of look, I'm like, this is the person you've got to go for.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I also think that it is a bit of a warning, I would say, to newer designers or someone who hasn't been in the field to an extent where you can identify what those things are. You have to be really cautious about doing that type of strategy too early, because you could end up abandoning yourself.
Right, except that I would counter that with, if you are going into it as a strategy on something that you truly love, right? So it's one thing, here's where I would agree with you. If I'm a new designer and I'm like, oh, that really worked for Studio Thomas, and that really worked for Judith's friend to go and really be identified as a particular genre of design or style of design. I'm going to do that too. I'm going to pick this style. Well, that's not authentic. You see, coming to it from an outside reason and it not really having a passion for that style of design. But I think that even if you are brand new and you have a passion for a particular style of interior design, then I say, what better time than when you start your firm to just put that into the media, put that into the marketing, take those projects on, and establish yourself as the person in your area for that genre. Now, if you're brand spanking new and you got some bills that you have to pay, it might mean that one day of the week you take a project that's not that style, and the other day of the week you take the ones that are. But I think it means that you don't put the ones that aren't that style out to the public. They don't go on the website. They don't go in the social media.
I agree.
You agree? Yeah.
I agree. If you're trying to make a name for yourself, be selective.
Even and when you say make a name for yourself, we don't even necessarily mean like Candace Olsen make a name for ourselves. We just mean make a name for ourselves in our little pond, known as the man or woman who does this sort of design. XYZ.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love it. All right. What
so
other
do you want to know?
need? Yeah.
So
Ah.
I was going to try. I'm trying so hard not to say so.
I don't know why.
It's your New Year resolution, right?
Yeah, whatever. Another personality trait that I think is really important is to learn conflict, how to manage conflict, and also how to manage resolution. So conflict and resolution sometimes are used together in the same language, like conflict resolution, right? But I think there's two elements here. You have to learn how to navigate conflict, and then you also have to learn how to navigate or provide resolution. And sometimes those are conflicts may be of a technical nature. God forbid, some plumbing issue happened on a job site. Okay. Or it may be an issue of conflict that has to do with the homeowner and their behavior.
Right.
Okay. So providing resolution on the back end includes, how do I manage a technical problem or a technical conflict, but then how do I provide resolution to a homeowner that is really the conflict issue? Okay.
Not as easy.
Not as
right?
easy.
Not as easy. I think in there, you when you are identifying conflict and you're identifying resolutions, like Judith said, I think there's a lot of being able to identify personalities in there and being able to see. I'm going to say something. I train my team to manipulate situations to suit our needs.
Oh, hello.
Whoa.
It's just, how are we going to get work done? Right?
That's a separate podcast.
Right. But when we have a conflict, we're able to, if we can identify what that is, we're able to find the resolution that's going to get us to the quickest, easiest, most likely answer,
right.
without saying, well, you have about 5 different options here. No.
Right.
One.
Right.
This is our strong recommendation. This is what we recommend.
Right.
And that's interesting because also, Judith, you mentioned that plumbing issue on site, and in Canada, we kind of have to step off that soapbox a lot of the times and let the contractor resolve that issue. We can't say a thing. So, I mean, you can say a thing, you can put it in your report, but I don't think we have the right to suggest a resolution to a non-design issue.
So I want to go back.
Right? What nails?
I want to go back to Luann for a moment here. You have developed a listening skill. And so when you're talking and interviewing everyone, you've listened very intently, and then you restate what the issue or what the conversation or what the topic was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That is a skill set that does not come organically to most people. You have to learn it, because you have to be very much in the presence of listening. And then you have to be in the presence of almost have a dual thought process going, where you're listening, but you're also trying to work a solution or a response. And that's not a skill that's really inherently taught anywhere today.
No, I came by it because I've been such a student of the sales process my whole life. And it is, look, to what we're talking about, it is, critical in having, when you're in conflict, to exercise that skill, and it's critical in resolution to exercise that skill, but it's also germane to being a successful salesperson. And look, as interior designers, you're salespeople. You are a salesperson first, and so you cannot design a single floor plan until you have sold that project. It's plain English. And so for me, it is a skill set that I have developed, and I would tell you is that it was not innate to my nature. I haven't said it so much on my podcast, but I've been interviewed on a lot of other podcasts where people ask me about me, right? And so I was raised and socialized with boys. There's no sitting and waiting and listening. You're not getting a turn. You're just not. It's like, whatever, So my innate nature is very, hey, me. Like, okay, it's my turn. I want to talk and I got to get it in. La, 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 la. You know what I mean? And by the way, in my regular family dynamic, when I'm sitting around with all of my 8 grown children, they're my kids and their people, I'm not sitting there going, oh, well, wait 90 minutes for my turn to talk. Like, they'll tell you, it's like right over them,
Are you sure it's not a New Jersey thing?
It could be too, right?
I'm thinking it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we could elaborate that. Like yesterday, we had a client meeting with just these 2 little bathrooms, not even little, but they're 2 bathrooms, and the husband and wife were very much. I identified what we were recommending for a solution, and they went, "Oh, we never thought of that." They had their little conflict together without me. They came to their own answer, and then they said, "Yes, we'll go with what you think."
That's good. That's good communication skills.
Right? So that type of dynamic is not always taught. We have to learn that, especially if we're coming from different types of environments. So
right. And in that dynamic there, it was very important for the success of that, for you to stay quiet while they did their thing. That's a moment where you have to recognize, stay out of this, let them come around. And if they couldn't resolve, then you have to come in back and facilitate. But that's the point. You have to know when to, like, shut up.
Yeah, you're right.
Sometimes silence is great, where you've got that little catch up where
Right.
their brains are catching up with you and you're like, I
Right.
already know the answer.
Right,
So
right.
I'm just gonna be
And like
quiet.
what you were mentioning too, Judith, is the summary and clarification. That's so important. It's important in everything. It's important in every relationship, but it's particularly important when you are in the sales process, whether it's a sales process of closing a design consultation or whatever it is to reframe what has just been discussed so that everybody is on the same page.
Correct. And one observation that I've had, observed an individual recently. We've just started working together, a contractor, very nice gentleman, and he I don't know if he's nervous or he's overly caffeinated or what, but what happens is he doesn't pause long enough to think what was actually said by the homeowner and kind of jumps onto the topic and then rolls over the topic and onto the next one. And I caught myself being, normally I'm trying to orchestrate and help manage this, or help facilitate an initial conversation, and when there's the meeting with the contractor, homeowner, and myself. And I don't know, it's just my nature to control shit. I don't know.
Bleep.
But sorry. What I realized in observing this contractor is if he had paused, restated, if he had just taken just a breath and paused and then restated what the homeowner was talking about, we probably could have taken that 3-hour conversation and gotten it done in about an hour.
Right.
And what I found even more fascinating is that the homeowner is a psychologist and really way in the deep end of psychology and medicine, and a professor. And so I was watching her dynamic and then this contractor. And so it was kind of interesting.
Right.
It's very interesting to see this. But so there's this need that we always want to jump in and provide advice, okay, because they're asking us for advice. But sometimes we just have to pause, because I've also observed young designers or I don't want to say young, excuse me, designers just entering into the field, that they're so anxious to make an impression or to provide a solution that they really haven't had a chance to think it through. So sometimes it's a good thing to say, you know what, I don't have an answer for you for that particular topic right now. Let me make a note and let's come back to it.
That's right.
And let me think it through a little bit.
That's right. And there's no shame in that. And actually that's an amazing skill to develop, to be able to just step back and say, I'm not sure, but I'll find out.
Well, you know what? It kind of puts the power back in your, in your corner, because you do have to do some work for it. Yeah.
No, I love it. No, I mean, look, if the thing about conflict is that you're not going to even get to the point of resolution if you haven't really fully identified what the conflict is. Now, if the conflict is a broken pipe in the bathroom, that's pretty easy to identify. Okay. But if the conflict is more personal in nature, more personality, or more agreement, disagreement, expectations met, not met, it's a different story. And the thing of it is that I have learned through taking the time to question, answer, clarify, summarize when I'm in the middle of conflict with my clients, is that sometimes you find out the thing that's upsetting them isn't the thing that you thought it was. And sometimes the thing that's upsetting them is like, oh, well, I can fix that. You know what I mean? And I think the key is having the courage to face the conflict and to not pretend that there isn't a conflict, to actually say, because sometimes people will come at you, right? They'll call you up, they'll leave a message, they'll go carry on, I'm pissed. Other times there's just a feeling. There's just a feeling that something's not right, it's not going right. Maybe the last 2 or 3 interactions with them, they're, just not right. And there's no point in ignoring that because something's going wrong. And the thing is, all you have to simply say is, I'm sensing that you're I don't know. And you can even not put the word to it and say, I'm sensing that. I'm not sure if it's unhappy, if it's dissatisfaction. I don't know what the word is. And that's just it. I'm sensing something. Would you share with me? Is there something wrong in this process that you're not happy with? Because sometimes, well, as a matter of fact, last week you gave me an invoice and it's been bothering me because I thought XYZ and it was XYZ. Well, if you can resolve that, now why have every meeting in between then and that one like this icky thing because something was hanging out from a week ago, right? And if it's bigger than that, you got to face it anyway.
I have a kind of a rule in my personal relationships in that if something's bothering me, it's my job to bring it up within 24 hours. If I don't bring it up within 24 hours, that situation is no longer my fault or their fault. It's done. It's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good
think
personal rule, but not most people subscribe to it, and not necessarily your clients.
No, but I also think it's our job as professionals to be able to say, there is something wrong here. I'm going to address it within my, what I would do within my 24-hour period. Mm-hmm. And then if I don't get a response back, you know what? I've done my job. I've done what I can to get the feedback, to be able to move this thing forward. There's nothing wrong. So that situation is now over, right? So
okay.
Consider the sale sold.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is. Conflict resolution is really at its core having, some backbone to actually be willing to have the conversation about the conflict, because usually the conflict isn't really as bad as what you imagine it to be. And it certainly is never as bad as it's going to get if you ignore it. That's the other thing. You don't get anywhere by ignoring it. You only aggravate it and make it worse.
What I wanted to mention about conflict and armoring up, and it really, this came about from a situation where, I had and I may have mentioned it on a previous podcast, where I had a homeowner and it was a bit of a scramble, and because they came in early, and it was one of the initial meetings, and I just had a little, when we were finished, my inner dialogue is, oh, this is going to get a little weird. And so I just called him the next day and I said, just wanted to follow up and see, would you like me to come out and bring the samples and talk? And the husband said, he says, well, I didn't think it went very well yesterday. And he says, but we can talk about that later. And I go, I had this moment of clarity and I'm like, I'm going to suck it up and find out what's wrong.
Right.
And I said to him, I said, well, why don't we just talk about it now? And let's just get it out of the way. And he said, well, you weren't very prepared yesterday. And I'm like, my inner dialogue is, you came early. I wasn't prepared. Because the samples were still in my car. The studio was a mess. It worked out, but I was able to ask him from a non-personal space, so I didn't make it about me, which is so hard to do, is to not make it about me, because it is all about me all the time. but shut up, Cory. But it did work out, but I had to be strong enough and I had to be open enough to at least say, okay, what didn't work for you, so that I know how to make this work for you going forward. So short story is, if I had not taken that very small step to find out and to set aside my personal issues and find out what was not working for him, this project, which has been horribly delayed because of lack of qualified, or lack of just people in general, qualified help, they've had their bathroom torn up for 3 months, and they love us.
Oh.
But I mean, they love us, and this, in other words, the contractor that I work with and myself, and I mean, their life is upside down, but because we managed it from a personal point and not from a point of conflict, that they, even in the midst of this horribly long project, they still are very happy with us.
Right.
But if I had not taken just that little moment to make that personal call.
Right. It's, I say it a lot on the show because I just love it. I've always ascribed to it and believed it and lived by it. But when Lee Cockrell was on the show, he put it in such a perfect sentence. And I always have to take a second to think about how the sentence goes. It's that perfect, but I always screw it up. So it's, what he said is if you only do the easy things, everything else gets harder. And when you do the hard things, everything else gets easier. Like, isn't that so, like, absolutely perfection, that sentence? I love that sentence.
That's way beyond a bumper sticker. That's a
Isn't
tattoo.
That? I know.
Oh, yeah.
I tell me. No,
yeah.
I just thought it was awesome. And it is so true in every part of your life, not just your design life, but every part of your life. You have to be willing to do the hard things. And when you do, everything falls into place and gets easier. And conversely, if you avoid the hard things, you know, if you only do the easy things, everything gets hard. So the easy thing would have been to not ask your client directly, what's going on? I'm having a feeling like you're not happy. It would have been easy not to ask that and just keep going down the road and kicking it to the corner. And, you know, like I was saying, you know, the resentments start to build up and you start to, and then, you know, what happens is you as a personality, you could almost forget what you originally were upset about. You're so used to having this icky feeling going on for weeks that the dynamic is shot now. So, you have to manage conflict. You have to face it, and you have to, and by doing that, that's the first step to getting to resolution.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one other topic for your podcasts, and so we'll probably have to, Cory, I'll eventually let you talk, but but I know we're going to run out of time for it today. But I want a personality trait, both a personality trait that you should have as a successful designer is the ability to nail Jell-O to a tree. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm just going to let that sit there for a while.
You're not going to teach us how to do it?
Well, that's a whole nother topic, is how do you nail Jell-O to a tree?
Okay.
So
waiting with bated breath for the solution.
Yes, I know you will.
Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, I thought we wanted to talk about knowing what you will do and what you won't do. It's one of my favorite topics.
Oh, okay. I love this one.
I do too.
Because I've worked really hard on it.
Oh, good. So tell us about your process of working hard on it.
My process. So I took quite a few different client situations, and I looked at them. I took the crappy ones, and I looked at them and I said, what did I do, or what did we do that caused this to kind of go 6 directions of sideways? And what I came up with was quite simple. We didn't set the project up for success from the beginning. And that meant there were 2 segments to it. That meant providing someone a document or something to read through before we meet. And we have 2 of those, two different things. And then as we're going through the proposal, identifying what we will not do. So this is what your proposal includes. This is what it excludes. So always giving inclusions and exclusions. And I think that's very valuable. And I think that's something that's not really taught in. So when the first part, which was the initial contact of, great, thanks for setting up your telephone meeting, because I automate that now rather than having a telephone call. It was faster. We push out an email that states, please read our quick facts on our website, and with a link. And we have about 15 there. And I use that as a gateway to open up conversation or to set a tone, to set up how we're organized and how we're going to make the next part of this process work really well. When it comes down to our pre-design consultation, so before any design work is done, because we don't do a design consultation, we do a pre-design consultation. We push out a welcome package. It's probably about 12 pages and it's large font. don't get scared. It's large font.
Easy reading.
Yeah, and with graphics and images in there and little things, little tricks, like how are decisions going to be made? Who makes the decisions? How are product selections going to happen? Who buys the products? I'm giving you this information ahead of time because I don't want it to be a thing.
Right.
It's not going to be a thing. So, and how do we handle an issue with a contractor, or what do the contractors need to provide you with? When's the right time to engage them? Those types of things. They come with, that's not something we freely give away. They have to buy the consultation first. It automatically gets sent to them. Then we go on the consultation and say, so did you read our welcome package? And did you have any questions?
No, I have it right here.
Exactly. And then, great, thank you. Tomorrow you're going to get an email, and our proposal software is going to say, book your meeting with us for your proposal, and you can do so at any time. We'll have your proposal ready within the next 24 hours. And at that meeting, we go through it. We reinforce the decision-making process. We reinforce that client creative contractor situation. We reinforce what we will do, and then we have a list of exclusions.
Okay.
And there's 11 of them. I have them on my screen over here, which is why you see me looking over there. There's 11.
11 things that you will not do. Okay. So what are these things? Are these like for Judith, it's like you're not picking pillows. Is that one of them? I'm not picking rugs.
No.
That's Cory.
No, I refused. The services not provided include no finger pointing, no arguing, and no plumbing valve selection. Won't do. Those are the 3 things I will not do.
Okay.
I will not pick plumbing valves.
Okay. Somebody else has to pick the plumbing valves.
Yes.
Okay.
So, should we go through some of the 11?
Yeah. But I want to just recap for a second. Make sure I understand. So what you're saying is that when someone first calls Cory, Klassen Interiors, that call gets answered by a receptionist. And if a client wants to take the next step to have a phone call with Cory, that goes to Acuity, probably. They get an Acuity link, and then they can schedule a call with Cory.
It's embedded on my website. All you have to do is go to contact us. It's the big thing right there. The telephone number and the email address are buried way down at the bottom.
Okay.
It's a sales process, right? It's a sales technique.
Right.
I want the telephone meeting. I don't want to have a conversation about it. I don't want to try to find a time for it. I want you to book it, answer my 15 questions, then we're going to talk about it.
Okay, so that's the thing. So the idea is for a potential client to book a phone call with Cory, and post booking it and prior to it happening, they get an automated email with the confirmation time of call, and it has a document that has these 15 information things on it about your process.
You bet.
Okay. And now you have that 20-minute phone call with them that says, "Hey, I'm Cory in the real life flesh and blood, and let's have a little chit chat about your project." And that's when you pitch. And the design consultation is X amount of dollars. Do you want one? Take one from column 1. I want one design consultation. Terrific. Here's the link back again to Acuity. Pay for it, book it, and then I will show up, or you show up. That consultation can happen at their place or your place, whatever. That's not relevant. Okay,
right.
But you decide that. Okay, and so now you are on the actually pre-design consultation. That's what this is, pre-design consultation. So let's just say this pre-design consultation is happening at their location. So you're assessing, you're seeing what they want, you're understanding, you're asking questions, you're not giving design advice. Am I correct?
No, we're completing our questionnaire, which is that many pages.
Okay, so you've given that to them before you've arrived, and now when you get
Yep.
there, you go through it with them and say,
Yep.
let's go, let me see your answers, or if you never
Yep.
looked at it until this minute. Okay,
Yep.
then you leave, you tell
Yep.
them if you want to take the next step and have us be the firm that does your project,
Book a proposal.
they have to, because they're not going to get a design plan unless they now do the next money. So the next money, you don't know what the next money part is yet. So, but they have to commit to wanting to know what that is. And then what happens? They commit to saying, I want it. And then you design it. And then you say, okay, I've got it designed. It's $5,000. I've got it designed. It's $10,000. Pay me. Okay. That's the great part. What happens there?
No, you book the proposal. You get an acceptance for the proposal. You sign the contract. You pay me the money. Then we do the design.
And where do you figure out how much you're charging? Because wouldn't each project have a different fee for that proposal, or no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? Because somebody wants a bathroom and somebody wants a whole house.
Yeah, we use a formula
Okay.
based upon square footage because it's the easier, tangible way to measure a space. And then we have a factor of complexity. So it's a simple design, it's a complex design, it's advanced, and it's highly specialized. So those add different values in there. But that gets us the fee.
You've forgotten the factor for the homeowner, the pain factor.
Right.
That's what I'm calling the complexity.
Yeah, okay.
A very complex design dilemma.
We have a PIDA, right? Which is highly complex. Yes.
Right. Okay, so let me now go back again. So now you've had your pre-design consultation.
Yes.
You say to them, I would love for us to work together. If you want us to work together, hit this link. And this will give you, once you hit that link, then you're going to get emailed back the proposal. When you pay me for, go ahead.
No, we don't do proposals via email ever.
Okay.
They're always in person.
Okay.
Always. And they have to book that meeting. So that's what that email link does, is allows them to book that meeting.
Okay.
And the reason, I'll backfill in a minute why we do that, because there was a strategy there. But in that proposal is where we go through the exclusions.
Okay.
So it doesn't happen before, it happens at that proposal because we've identified what the project is. We've basically created a design program. If anybody is in interior design field, they know what that terminology means and what you have to do, but that's what your proposal is. It's basically your design program document.
Okay.
And we outline that permit submission is done by a contractor. We outline how many revisions they will receive at what phases and how many. If we outline if there's custom designed furniture or window coverings, that is not included because that is a whole separate process of how long that's going to take. We outline that if we have to consult with items that they are purchasing, that there's an additional charge.
Okay. Okay. I like it.
We outline that meeting with the contractor to review the contract documents or your construction drawings and your specifications. If we have to go through that with them, I mean, we're pretty good at that part. If we have to handhold them through that, that's extra.
Okay.
If we have to meet with an architect, an engineer, or anything like that, that's extra. We produce a project binder, one big binder full of everything that they need, and that's for the homeowner. Not only do they get the digital source, the studio online, but they get a printed copy that with all the full-scale drawings and everything wrapped up nice and neatly, and they get one copy. If they want more, it's extra.
Are you creating all of that in my DOMA?
I am.
Just saying.
Right?
I really wasn't 100% sure if you were, but you're creating all of that in my DOMA. So so for instance, if you are doing your whole design program in my DOMA, it's all there, and that's what you meant. It's digitally there for them to access, but you also make a hard copy for them and give it to them in a binder.
Yes. We also do not text message or email because we need to be able to keep track of the documents and the information, and because I have a team, I need to see everything that's going on at any time because I need to be able to jump in. And if I'm not available, they need to be able to jump in. It's the same thing. So that information needs to be transparent to everybody.
And that's all in my DOMA.
It's all in my DOMA.
That's my favorite part about my DOMA, by the way.
We don't get resistance when we explain
Why?
that we don't get a resistance when we explain that the information stays all together. It's not going to be another item in another email that we have to go and try and find, and we missed that part because it wasn't re-emphasized. And we use it like, you can use it like a chat function, or you can use it as an email function, whatever you like.
Yeah. So what you're describing is not that you're not taking digital communication from a client. It's that you won't take it outside of their project that lives in the DOMA Studio platform. So if they want to change something, ask something, a contractor wants to change something, ask something, you want to. And that was the moment when I first met Sarah Daniele, the CEO of DOMA, and interviewed her for the show going back 2.5 years ago. That was the moment that I fell in love with Sarah and her platform, because I struggle with that as a vendor. I struggle with that on a regular basis. If I just told you the trail that I had to go through yesterday for an interior designer's project that's been going on for 4 months, when I tell you how far from reality what the purchase order is for that project to what's actually being delivered, it's a joke. And of course, what happens is I'm privy to all the information, but Billy, my partner, the installer, is going to be, in some high rise on Park Avenue next week installing this. And the purchase order is, there's 19 emails going. I mean, literally as blatant as this is that the living room draperies are specified on the purchase order as 2 pairs of blackout line draperies installed to HVAC units. When I tell you, do you know what the final iteration is? 2 one-way drapes, ripple fold, sheer, online, installed to the floor. Like,
that's different. That's not your purchase order anymore.
Have I gotten a single revision? Have I gotten one? No. Here's how I've gotten it. There is a message pad note with one thing. There's an email with another thing. And that's why I love what you're describing, that you require your client to communicate in there, and you require everybody, because that is how you avoid conflict and have to come to resolution, for crying out loud.
And I think I can better explain this when I say, before we switched over to using DOMA exclusively for everything, that we had a project, and I counted the number of emails, and we were at 395.
Whoa.
For a project. And no wonder I missed the light fixture. Like, give me a break.
It's the truth. It's so true. So, so we sidetracked there because I just love that. I think it just does so much to be increasing efficiency.
We actually just talked about 2 separate things, right? We talked about expectations, setting expectations up front, and then we talked about organization.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely.
which is kind of what setting expectations is.
Yeah. And I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I often feel like if I don't get it, that there might be one person that doesn't get it either. So I have to ask you this part one more time.
Yeah, bad.
I'm not getting is, and see, sometimes it's because I'm not a designer that I don't get it, and other times it's because it wasn't clear. So I never, know. But what I'm not sure is after the pre-design meeting.
Yes.
The next step is for them to accept your design proposal and pay you.
Yes.
Okay? But what I'm not clear on is to what level what kind of work are you doing from pre-design, that in between to design proposal? Are you putting in 1 hour? Are you designing the whole thing? You're putting in 5 hours? What are you doing there? Because I understand you don't have money yet. So you had consultation money, but you don't have money yet. So how much work are you doing, and how are you getting compensated because I know you have to do a certain amount in order to get the project, but what the consultation fee is doing is it's covering the costs of doing the pre-design phase. So we're not making money off of it. It's covering the costs. So in your mind, it's covering the cost of having that meeting and the follow-up work that you're going to do in order to be prepared for the next meeting.
it's covering the telephone meeting first, then it's covering the travel to the consultation, the actual consultation, the travel back, writing all my notes, scanning everything in, doing the admin work, and then sitting down and actually writing the proposal. Now, I've probably written 800 or 900 proposals in my career.
So you're not going to stress over it and take 100 years to do it.
No, because I usually say I need 4 paragraphs and this is what they need to say and this is how I structure it. I'm pretty good at doing that part. But it does, for a new designer, it probably is going to take about 20 to 30 hours. But you have to be careful what you're going to charge there. You should not be charging always 20 to 30 hours for that work. But we charge, I can tell you, we charge $500 plus tax, and that covers my costs over that period. So our operational costs with everybody's pay included and everything like that is about 38 to 48 an hour.
Okay.
So that gives me the number of hours to complete that work. And I don't always expect to get the job. This is just a cost of doing business. Sometimes you have to put in a little bit more work to get the client, right? But sometimes you do that up front with websites and Acuity and stuff like that. So
so to recap it, what you're saying is that your consultation is $500, and that in your mind that covers the 20-minute phone call, it covers the travel back and forth to the consult, it covers the consult, and it covers you preparing a design proposal document. And when you prepare the design proposal document, you are going to, for the most part, you are going to base that price there on the square foot with the color of simple, intermediate, advanced, and complex, in quotes, design project. So you might do, I'm going to make up a number, you might do $50 a square foot, but if it's complex, it's $85 a square foot. If it's $50 a square foot and it's easy, it might be $50 a square foot. So you're coloring in the level of the design and the personality of the client. Okay, I like that. And then though, what I love about this is that you see, as a new designer, you can't just take that information and be done there, because you then have the list of the 9,000 things that are included or not included. So part of the inclusion is you get a document, a hard copy document, as simple as this. You get a hard copy document of your entire project when it's done, but you say you get one. So it's not like every person is like, oh, they take it for granted. I got one, I lost it. I want another one. You're not telling them the 15th time, oh my God, stop losing it, you crazy person. It cost me money. You're telling them.
Because on the page after the exclusions, I have the list of additional services.
Yeah.
And how much they cost.
I love that. Okay. I love that. So,
but Judith's process is going to be totally different.
No, I know hers is different. But the thing is, what I like is that in the coaching with interior designers that I've been doing is that I recognize that one of the biggest stick points for designers is to avoid being taken advantage of by clients who want extra. You know, what the designer determines is extra services. But what I keep expressing is, have you expressed what is included in your services? Because until you tell them, nothing is extra to them. They don't know what's extra. You can't blame them. You didn't say only these 5 things were included. That's an extra.
And the reason why we need to know this is because we're used to going to McDonald's and ordering off a menu and knowing what the add-ons are.
That's right. Well, look.
It's the same thing. It's money.
Exactly. I love it. It's what you do and what you won't do. Yes, Judith.
Well, since you all have this nailed down really well, I have to go down the highway because I have a homeowner that's abusing my privileges. I need to go take care of an installation. Yeah.
Jello and tree. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to go nail some Jello to a tree.
Okay.
So I'm going to sign off, but in fairness, Cory is very process driven, and this is very good because a lot of designers don't go to the detail that he does. So please continue this dialogue, but I thank you very much.
Thank you, Judith.
And we'll continue the conversation.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Bye.
But
we scared her.
I know we did. We totally scared her and we left her out too long. That stinks. But you know what we were talking about there with you, I know is the system is not shared by her firm, but I have to say, you know, Judith is, look, first of all, let's understand something. Judith is well seasoned. She, you know, she might not have to, in her demographic, in her market, for her firm, have to have a list of 11 things I won't do and 15 things I will do, because she has it very clearly in her head. And I know from working and speaking with her for this last year and a half that she's expressing it, whether it's verbally, it's contractually, whatever it is. And the buck stops with her. I mean,
yep.
It reminds me of me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like, look, I've done this for 36 years. This is how I do it. You don't
right.
have to do it with me. You can go down the road. Do you know what I mean?
And a lot of this is that we see a shift lately in the experience level of our clients. They've never worked with a professional before. They've never had to hire a lawyer. They've never had to purchase a lease on a building, or
right.
purchase a building that isn't a residence,
right.
or something like that. So they haven't had to go through some of the parts and pieces of what processes are,
right.
let alone education has changed on the back end, and that there is a kind of a disconnect sometimes in between where our educators have helped us along with making decisions,
mm-hmm.
or where our parenting has changed.
Mm-hmm.
There's my light again. Sorry.
It's like The Shining.
I haven't put in the maintenance request yet.
Or pay the electric bill, one or the other.
I remember.
Oh, no. Okay. So the thing is, though, that what I like is the big takeaway from this is that when you get very clear with what you will or will not do, and then you express it, now they're like, because one of the things that I feel like is that as designers, you understand what you do, and it never occurs to you that the outsider doesn't. Yeah. Like even in the coaching that I'm doing, it's like when there is a conflict for a designer and they're trying to figure out how to get around a client who is, you know, not being great and just in that, like one of the first things every time I say is, well, what was your agreement with that client to begin with? What did you express? And they would be like, well, you know, my process is kind of like this, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, right. And how did you say that? Did you say it in words? And I don't mean like, and I'm asking because based on the answer is the way I'm going to counsel them to handle the conflict, right? And so my thing is, I'm starting with, well, okay, did you express it in writing? Was it in a meeting?
Mm-hmm.
And so often it's like, well, I have my letter of agreement, but you know, it doesn't really say that in it. And I'm just like, okay, so you see, this isn't on the client. If the client really didn't understand, then, and I said, and it's okay to be definitive in your agreements. And as a matter of fact, it's better to be. So you have 11 things you won't do.
Right.
Is that what we're going to go ahead? Tell us the 11 things.
Well, I started.
I know.
And then we lost someone.
I know. Well,
The other things are, we provide up to 3 product selection options. What I'm calling a product is anything. So we'll give you up to 3 tile choices, or 3 wallpaper choices, or whatever you're going to call it, 3 cabinet finish choices, whatever they are. And if you want more, great. Good for me.
Line on the dotted line for more money.
Right. The other thing is, where are we here? So the building permit application. So in our litigious city of Vancouver, we have our own building bylaw for the whole entire city. Toronto is in the middle of establishing that as well. So every strata corporation or homeowners association, if you're in a condominium, has a requirement that you file for a building permit.
Oh.
And that doesn't mean just changing an electrical outlet or plumbing. It means proper filing. And we can't include that.
It's not part of what you do.
Yeah.
They have to get it.
We can prepare the drawings, but the actual processing of that is not our responsibility, because that needs to be either up to the homeowner or the contractor to complete.
Okay.
We will vet that plan with our authority having jurisdiction, which means...
One thing that I like about it is like, see, this is exactly what I'm trying to say. For an uneducated consumer who's never been through an interior design project prior, and let's take Canada, Vancouver specifically, for example, you as a Vancouver experienced interior designer know and understand that you cannot do that process, that it's legally not proper for you to do. But you see, this is exactly the type of thing that I'm finding is that whether it's that process or a different process, because you innately know it doesn't mean that your client does. So how many times have you said that to a client and they're like, oh, well, can't you just do it? And you're like, I'm legally not allowed to. Oh, okay. But if you didn't enunciate it, you could be 3/4 in and you're like thinking, well, everybody knows that I'm legally not allowed to do it. So I guess they're getting the permits, and they're 3/4 in thinking, I hired Cory. Of course he's getting the permits. So that's a great point, and it happens to be a distinction that's legal, but it doesn't matter if it's legal or not. You're not doing it. You've told them, and that's okay.
Right. I mean, any design professional can submit for the permit. I just have chosen that it isn't in my business's best interests.
Right. And that's your prerogative.
Right. It takes us, the situation is if we're not in line at 6 a.m., we're not going to get seen by 4 p.m.
Right. And nobody's got time for that.
I'm not right. That's a whole day. That's $1,500 of time.
Right, and that's the other thing.
Gone.
If you insist I do it, it's $1,500 a day for my assistant to sit there and do it. Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't want to pull on this thread too hard. I just want to nudge it a little bit because what we're talking about are selling skills, the ability to sell. And
framing it. It's all how you say it.
And I look for people who have worked in either retail, restaurant, some service aspect with more than a year, because sales is so hard. It's so challenging. This is why I don't want to pull on this thread, because I know you and I are going to run down this road. Very quickly.
The 9-hour podcast.
Right? But this systematic organization of information and conveying that information is selling.
Right.
So.
Right. No, it's true. I agree. So I love it. I think that, the bottom line on it is that it's what we said. Know what you will do and what you won't do. Have no fear of writing a list of what you will do on a project. Have no fear of actually having the list of what you won't do. And then there could be a third list of what I will do for extra money. Like, you're not going to call it that, but services available at a fee, at a service.
Additional services.
Right. Now, one question before I let you go that I would love for you to just talk it through a second is, when you say as part of your contract that any selection up to 3 is included, and the 4th one you're going to pay extra money for, you're seasoned, you are talented, you are experienced, so it's probably very unlikely the number of times that you have to present even that 3rd option, because you're good at what you do and you have experience doing it. But can you recall and think back, was there a time in your career when it was more difficult to nail every selection within 3? Okay, if you're only listening, you have to see his face right now. It's just like, why?
I just hard eye roll.
So that's right. So that's the thing. So as a younger, newer designer, not younger, just younger in business, how do you navigate that? How do you not get caught having to make a selection 4 and 5 times when part of the reason is 4 or 5 times is because you're not as skilled? Or where am I at with that?
Well, that's a really...
It's hard, right?
Yeah, because I have to roll back into 28-year-old Cory.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? Because it's there's a moment, I think, when you cross over in your business and you know and you understand your value, and therefore it's like, look, it's 3 selections, and if you don't get it in 3 selections, it's you, it's not me. But prior to that,
so I would say that I had a project where I probably went through 15 or 16 different floor tiles that were gray.
That were or were not?
Were gray.
Okay.
All different grays and 5 different suppliers. And I went through that and I went, how hard, I evaluated it after that, and I went, how hard was it for me to get those samples? Was the rep responsive? Did I get pricing on time? Did the client like them? Did they get approved, or did we have to revise them? And where it came down to was we always landed on 1 or 2 suppliers. So for me, the decision-making process of getting from multiple revisions, which can happen. I've had projects where I was on version 15, and I just realized there's got to be a better way. Either I have to become smarter at what I'm doing and better at what I'm doing, or I need to start training my clients. I wouldn't say necessarily training, that might be the wrong word to use. It's
you
more
teach
about
them how to treat you.
Educating them.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So if they come in uneducated, I'd love for them to have a great experience being educated, so that the next professional that they choose to work with that isn't me,
right?
right?
Right.
They say, I wish we hired Cory again.
Right. Well, okay, so let's just say this. Let's just say that unless you have completely stumbled onto the complete wrong career for yourself, you probably, almost any designer at any skill set level, could make the right choice within 3 choices. Do you think we could agree to that?
I think if you know your product, yes.
Okay, so what you're saying is the difference is that I just heard why they went down the other discussion. So what you're saying is in the beginning, you ended up taking more time to do it and having to have more selections because you didn't know the product as well, and so you were going to more sources and running in circles more often for it.
Correct.
Okay, but that's not saying that the client declined them because they didn't work. That's just you spinning your wheels before getting to presentation.
Right. We're not in school anymore, right? We can spin our wheels in school, but time is money outside of school. So I discovered that solution. No one told it to me. You see my sample room behind me if you're watching on video, and that's as big as it is. That's all we need to get the job done for usually every job. Tile is way back down in the corner behind that furniture delivery. But we have select tile suppliers that we will work with because we know we can get responses on time, on budget. They're going to reply to our emails, and we're going to get answers. Okay. The other ones, we just kind of went, this is such a waste of time. Sure, it's a lovely product, but it didn't even make the cut because I couldn't get an answer, or I didn't make the cut because I said to the client, I don't know how much it costs because I couldn't get an answer.
Right.
So
but
that
that's
to me
two different problems, right? So one is you're not spinning your wheels on the back end, and the other is making 3 presentations and having a client say no to all 3.
Right, which still can happen. Not going to lie. Right. Which means if it does happen now, it's not the client's fault. At this stage, it's mine.
But see, that's what's interesting. Meanwhile, you have it set up that the client pays.
Correct.
Which I'm fine with, by the way. But I'm just saying that. Right.
It's more of a protection. It is a policy, right, that we write into our agreement. But we have a way of tracking that, and sometimes it's really just because they're like, I kind of don't really like it. I'd like to see another option, maybe. Like, okay, so stop. Why do you need to see another option? What is it about this one that you don't like? Let me understand that, because I may give you a grace period of 1, But after that, you're definitely going to get a bill.
Right. Okay. And I like that because you know what? Because you've said at the fourth selection you're going to charge doesn't mean you have to, right?
No, you don't.
And I would say that you could base it on a per individual situation basis. If you genuinely ascertain that you have not heard the client clearly, you have not communicated yourself clearly with the vision, and you really know that this is not a case of being difficult, that really haven't reached the right selection, then you could say, okay, I'm going to reselect one more time based on the clarity of this conversation, XYZ, I'm not going to send you a bill, but I'm so clear, and I've just repeated to you what you're looking for, that if it's not this time, then we are going to go back to my contract and charge for more. And of course, this isn't happening on 90 items. It's happening maybe on 1 or 2 items here and there. Okay. Right. I just wanted to have the discussion about that because it's one thing when you are seasoned and many years designing and can get your system for selection down to a few choice vendors for every product category. You can do it efficiently. You have a long history of having communication and understanding how to read a client, and you can produce it usually probably 99% of the time within 1 or 2 choices, let alone 3. But the new designer listening is like, how do I do that? And I still say for the new designer to put it in the contract, because here's the thing. Even if it takes you longer than it takes Cory to do it, and even if it really does take 10 items out of 100 in a project takes to getting to the 3rd selection, instead of Cory, what might be 1 item out of 100 that it takes to the 3rd selection. The fact is that if you say it in your contract ahead of time, 3 selections, and then the next one gets a charge, that will eliminate all of the clients who won't take the time to have the conversation to the point of clarity. They're going to be all about, well, I really want to make sure you understand what kind of sofa I want. It has to be a sleeper sofa. It has to be, as opposed to just taking for granted, oh, I forgot to tell you it needs to be a sleeper sofa, or I forgot to tell you I have a dog, you know what I mean? Blah, 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 whatever.
And sometimes what we can do to avoid that 1, 2, 3 scenario happening pretty quickly is we can cull out some bad options and provide 5 in a meeting and say, this is kind of where we're going. I need some direction from you.
Okay.
So now we got down to 1, and then if later on down the road they're like, I want to change it. We're like, right. You went back to an option I showed you, which is my own fault, right? So.
Oh my God. It's so much. It's so much. All right. I think we did a good job today, I have to say.
This was hard.
It always is. It's always hard.
I'm hungry.
All righty. Well, Cory, this whole, personality traits for successful interior designers, you have to be adaptable. And that means a lot of different things. So you have to be adaptable in your definition of adaptability.
Right. You have to know how flexible you want to be with your adaptability.
That's right. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we wanted to say that we have to know and learn how to manage conflict and get to resolution. And that comes from asking questions, clarifying, listening, paying attention, re-summarizing, and getting to where we want to be. And then, of course, the last thing was, having your knowing what you will do and what you won't do, and then putting it together in your documents. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty, guys. So that is it for Design Biz Live today. I don't have to remind you, I don't think, that my DOMA Studio is a sponsor of this podcast, and that you can go to mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business for your offer as a listener of the podcast. And it really did come up organically, but I do happen to know for a fact that my DOMA Studio is a valuable tool in your particular interior design firm, right, Cory?
Absolutely. We cannot do our business anymore without it.
Yeah. Awesome. All righty, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have an excellent day.
Thanks, Luann. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.